What's going on YouTube? It's Pt1 here doing a record pickup video, and it's been way too long since any of this type of content has come up on my channel, and I do apologize for that. If you are subscribed to my channel, you're probably wondering, where's Pt1 at? Well, I've been really busy with work and other commitments, plus I've moved houses, so there was a lot stopping me from making and actually shooting and uploading these videos. But the good news is guys, is that I've got a lot of records to show you. Now, with that being said, I won't be spending the longest time reviewing each individual album. Otherwise, it'll go for way too long. And I'll probably even split this off into 2 or 3 parts, such as the amount of records I've got. We'll get straight into it though. First one I'll show you is Acdc, Back in Black. Very much integral to the Australian classic music scene. 1980, this was released. And I'm a bit embarrassed to say that I've never actually listened to this album. Frankly, it's quite un-Australian. Songs like Back in Black, You Shook Me All Night Long, Hell's Bells, I've heard them all in passing or on the radio, but now that I've got the full album, I can listen to them all. This is one of the greatest selling albums of all time and one of the best albums of all time. Acdc, Back in Black. Definitely give this one a look. Next we have Bob Marley and the Wailers. Rustling and Vibration. This came out in I can't see a date on this, but I know it's from 1976. And the reason why I know is because this is his first album he did without Bunny Wailer or Peter Tosh, who were the other singers of the Wailers, right? This is just Bob Marley doing Rustling and Vibration. Now, back 2 years ago, I wasn't much of a big fan of this particular record. But you know what? Since I got this on record and put it on my turntable, the bass of the production of the sounds of the sound of this album just shines through and complements his voice brilliantly. This album was meant to be heard on vinyl. That's just my humble opinion. Yep, this is a gatefold. Give you a good look at that. Some of the songs on this album, that's the thing. I can't really pick out one tremendous song. And I'll explain why, guys. Because every song is good, mind you, but they all complement each other as a full product and a full listening session to this album. Perhaps not so much the first song, but that one is growing on me. I especially liked Crazy Bowhead. Rat Race was a great song. Positive Vibration, as I said, was the first one. Punk, Roots Rock, Reggae. So this is a very good reggae album. This is put in amongst one of the reggae greats. I do agree with that, especially since listening to it again. It's really opened up my eyes to how great this album is. Rustling and Vibration, Bob Marley. Definitely pick this thing up if you love reggae, because you won't be disappointed if you haven't heard this one already. Acdc, Happy. Just look at that album cover there. It doesn't look very happy at all. This was a bit of a stab in the dark buying this one, because I never heard of this dude, and I thought $18 was a bit much to spend on something I've never heard. But I'm bloody glad I did, because this guy has a very good voice, suits his production to a T, guys. To explain its sound would be more R&B and funky type style. Some of the songs I like in this include the first song, Love, I Love, 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 and just that opening verse when he sings, his opening voice notes are what sold me that I like this album. I knew I like it from the opening moments of this album. That such is how good it was. But my favorite on this particular record, I would have to say, is Doctor, which is a cold classic, a 1975 cold classic, the year this was released. Acdc, Happy. Give this thing a listen. He's got many other songs. He wasn't very well known outside the UK. I'm not really sure for the reasons why he wasn't very well known, but to me, this is classic material. Acdc, Happy. He has probably 5 or 6 other albums too if you want to have a look at adding on Spotify. Next is a very synthesized, bass-driven, heavily laid production by Kashif on this Aretha Franklin 1983 classic. Get It Right is the name of this particular record. And it's the name of the first song, and it's probably the name of the best song on this album. So get it right, guys. as you can expect, probably from the way I've described this, is heavily produced, and I love that 80s style of production. To match it, she has one of the greatest voices of all time. But I wouldn't say this is her best album in a discography, nor is it an all-time classic. But this is just a great 80s album you put on to listen to, and it doesn't really sound dated, such as the full sound the full sound production on this, and just how marvelously it's done. The producer, as I said, is by Kashif. Now, other songs on this record I like include Pretender and Every Girl. Now, it did fade off a little bit towards the end, hence why I'm not calling this one of the greatest albums, but nonetheless, it is a good 80s album if you like that heavily produced sound, especially with those synthesizers. I love that synthesized work, that 80s type sound. Next, we have a rap album, 1999 by Joey Badass. And this is a badass album, to be quite frank. 15 songs of just classic material, in my opinion. This came out in 2012, but sounds like an early 90s hip-hop golden age classic, guys. There's a slew of producers and rappers. I don't remember each individual one, but one of them that stands out to me is Jay Dilla, who is a classic, well, he was a classic producer till he passed away. Now, 1999, if you want to know its sound, its hip-hop sound, it's more of a mellow, more classic sounding, jazzy type style. It's very smooth. That's probably the absolute best way to describe this particular album. So this came out in 2012, and I very much thank the guy that got me for this, because I'm loving this. I listened to this that many times. Brilliant album, Joey Badass, 1999. If all you do is listen to classic hip hop, you can definitely pick this up. And I pledge to you, and I'm telling you now that you'll probably find this better than some classics from that era, which is a huge statement. Next one is actually one of the albums that Joey Badass would have tried to emulate, and that is Pete Rock and CL Smooth, The Main Ingredient. This is a huge classic, guys. Massive album from 94. Only out of all the songs like Carmel City, Check It Out, Searching, Take You There, It's On You. Jesus Christ, there's some songs on this. There's only 2 songs I didn't like. I'll give you a little bit of a background. By the time this came out in 94, the hip hop world was saturated with classic material, classic albums. A lot of good albums coming out at this time. Now, Pete Rock had a hand in many of those albums that were coming out at that time, and he's actually my favorite hip hop producer of all time. CL Smooth is a very smooth rapper. To describe this sound would be sort of similar to that 1999 by Joey Badass. Once again, you have jazz rap with funk and mellow classic sound stuff. This is actually more appreciated now than what it was back then. Probably because how I mentioned earlier, how we were so saturated with great classic albums in the 90s that come to this day, this stands out because we have less around it now. So if I explain that properly, yeah. So that's Pete Rock and CL Smooth, The Main Ingredient. Very good album in my opinion. One of my absolute favorites. Definitely give this one a listen. Classic stuff, yeah. So we have the Manhattans, self-titled, this one from 1975. This is a soulful album, very much like this type of samples that Pete Rock, the last album I showed you, would have sampled. The Manhattans came out with this and had the greatest song, Kiss and Say Goodbye, on this particular LP. That was actually a number one soul song that popped over into the pop charts for that position. And that was one of the last soul songs, guys, one of the last soul songs to reach number one on the actual pop charts. And if you appreciate that fact and appreciate soul music, then you can stand by this statement and say that this is one of the last great soul albums before it got funky in that type of production. Now, I'll explain that to you a bit further. When this album first starts, it has a bit of a disco vibe, which I'm not too much into, especially with the first song. I thought it sounded a bit dated, but this album really hits its stride when it got to the more mellow sounds and jazzy sounds that suit these vocalists' voices. And the vocals on this album, guys, are some of the best I've ever heard. Each style of vocals from each member is so distinctive, so classic, especially if you put this thing on vinyl. Just the warmth of that sound just explodes in your ears, warms your heart, fills the room. The Manhattans, pick this one up, 1975, great album that. Spinner's Pick of the Litter. This is also a good album, but not particularly one of my favorites, if I can explain that properly to you guys. This also came out in 1975, and the reason why it's not one of my favorites, because although it has a good sound, it sticks with that sound for the whole album. If you like just pure soul, you'll like this. The Spinners, their previous album I liked a lot more than this one, especially with the song I'll Be There. But this album didn't go too many places for me. Nonetheless, it's okay. Like, I'll put on a few other times to appreciate its sound, but not really my favorite at all. Just put it in that way. Now the next one will probably be the last of part one of all the records I'll show you for tonight. Hot Chocolate Horses. And I don't like this album at all. I hate this album, man. It's so gaudy. It's so kitsch. It's so corny and cheesy that I hate even saying those words. That I want to say roll clear of this particular LP. I don't like it at all. For those who can appreciate the sound and grew up in that era, might like this more than me, but I try and say roll clear of this. Now, on that high note, I might end this video. I'll be shooting the rest of these LPs tonight, hopefully. Stay tuned for part 2. See you then.